and welcome to the Binmin podcast. We know that the Christian life can be hard to figure out, but we also believe everyone should know the next step for making their spiritual life important to them. I'm Pops.
I'm Dave.
And I'm Bob.
This Binmin series on soul care, we've entitled When Life is Tough. And so we're going to be tackling some significant sins and sufferings that affect both us and our friends and can be very challenging. But by way of a disclaimer, I need to let you know that for all of the podcasts in this series, that none of the three of us are licensed counselors, therapists, psychologists, or a psychiatrist. So please view all of these podcasts as general information.
I mean, honestly, I don't think Dave's even a licensed driver.
Not in most states.
That's right. Definitely not Montana.
Go-karts for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
So, getting back to seriousness, if you do struggle with emotional problems, please seek out a godly, licensed professional. So, for today's podcast, we're going to talk about handling anger. So, who wants to kick it off?
Or why Bob is no longer allowed to play Madden.
Yeah, that's right. Too many broken controllers. What can I say?
Yeah,
That's correct.
So, one of you guys want to give a definition for what anger is?
Sure, yeah. Maybe like a biblical definition would be helpful to start it. So biblically speaking, anger is a God-given energy that can help us solve problems and show compassion. Everyone struggles to whatever, varying degrees. And handling anger is an incredibly important life skill because it can either be healthy or it can be sinful.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's probably appropriate for us to kind of talk about the two directions that it can go.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about what is healthy anger?
Yeah. So like Dave said, anyone can become angry. That's easy. But according to Aristotle, right, the famous philosopher, to be angry with the right person to the right degree at the right time for the right purpose in the right way, that is not easy.
Yeah.
Right. Surprise, surprise. But anger is not always a sin.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the Apostle Paul wrote in Ephesians chapter 4, be angry and do not sin.
Yeah.
Do not let the sun go down in your anger.
So
So
we
we can be angry in a certain way that isn't sinful. So maybe
Yeah.
we can explore that.
Well, and technically, believers are commanded to be angry in the right context. One context would be when God is dishonored. Another context would be when certain forms of injustice are being committed. That's what you would categorize as that righteous anger, when it is actually not just appropriate, but commanded for you to be angry about a certain thing that's happening.
Yeah, it's like righteous anger gives us that energy to go against, evils, social evils or personal evils, things going against people,
So-
or even defending innocent people,
Yeah. Can you give me any kind of examples of
My-
what righteous anger
Well,
looks like?
my favorite that a friend actually recently brought up to me, we were talking about how cool Jesus is.
Mm.
And he brought up like when he goes into the temple and sees the money changers and those committing all these pretty inappropriate acts
Mhm.
to do in the temple, turning into a market, and he braids a whip and goes in there and he's flipping tables and he drives out these money lenders, and you think to yourself, wait, isn't like culturally, don't we think of Jesus as like this great pacifist and this person who just kind of like, no, that was his father's house. That was his father's house. The people had totally, done these inappropriate things in.
Well, it makes me think of that part of that verse was that John chapter 2, I think. It's like, zeal for your house will consume me. And that's being validated. Like that's an Old Testament promise, basically, that Jesus is fulfilling and going, yeah, man, when evil happens or when people are making it hard for others to worship or the innocent people are being hurt, like those are valid ways where we can use energy or zeal or anger to honor the Lord instead of just sit by.
Yeah. So what you're saying too is the word zeal in that really is synonymous with righteous anger.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly seems like it.
Okay. So that takes care of what is a positive way of looking at anger. Let's delve into what we're really here to talk about. And that is,
The more common type.
Yeah, unhealthy anger.
Yeah, the more common type, the sinful
the one
anger.
that unfortunately we're
Yeah.
going to be experiencing
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
97.5% of the time. That's the James 1:20 type of anger. The anger that unfortunately is produced by our sinful nature. So James 1:20 says, the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God.
Yeah.
And you can sort of identify pretty easily when you experience it, you feel it, you know it.
Yep.
But I would add some maybe helpful descriptors like when it violates scripture, when it particularly does not bring honor to God, is probably a real easy identifier. If it involves revenge, think Romans 12, or hatred or volitionally hurting others, when it especially ruins your testimony to others, I think is a pretty clear one. Because if it's righteous anger, no one's offended. You're getting upset over the right thing and in the right way. Sinful anger, though, unfortunately.
Well, unless they're in the deep fault.
Unless
something
they're
like
the
that,
offending
like,
party,
that's
probably.
doing wicked or something
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
So it makes me think almost like the issue of control, that like sinful anger is when we try to control our lives and make people do what we want instead of submitting it to God.
Yeah. What do you think causes sinful anger? I mean, if you just had to list some things.
Yeah, I mean, sinful anger, it can come from a place of us feeling like, maybe rightly, maybe wrongly, like we've been hurt, or like we had an injustice against us.
Like as a response.
You know, it can come from our own pride, that we just think we're better or more important than other people.
Yeah, and I have to say, just in my own life, I think that's one of the biggest things, that in my own life, as well as in seeing sinful anger in other people, pride is huge.
It's just saying me first, you know, or living to please yourself. Like, hey, I have to be in control of this. I have to make sure that I'm pleased with whatever the situation is. Or honestly, it can also kind of come when past behaviors or past experiences come up, like maybe your own enraging situations you were in, or past hurt or trauma that you experienced, and then it kind of keeps coming out of you in the form of anger on other people. So that'd be a few places, I'd say.
Yeah. Good. Excellent. So how do we handle sinful anger?
Yeah, I think of James 1 again, but I would, before I say that, I would, say, in order to sort of appropriately engage and express it in a positive way would, I think, categorically require sort of appropriate biblical communication, and then that confrontation being loving.
Good.
Because there's a very clear, again, you feel it when it's a loving confrontation versus when it's not.
Yes.
In James 1:19, God gives us that encouragement again through his word. Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. So I read that though, and I think, like I'm saying, biblical communication and loving confrontation requires the exact opposite of what Bob alluded to. It's control, though, over your response and the anger, not of the other person, the context.
Dude, that's really good. Yeah, it's like self-control instead of trying to control the situation.
Right.
Yeah, and I think the point that we're going to maybe delve a little bit more in is that there are three big things that we should be doing, right? We should be slow to hear, quick to hear, slow to speak.
Not slow to hear.
That happens after your 65th birthday, right, Pops?
That's it. Wait, what?
Does anybody else want to outline?
This is when Mama comes in and says, "Turn it up, Bob."
So, quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. So, let's start out with quick to hear.
Yeah, I'm probably not doing a good job of that right now, but yeah, I mean, being quick to hear, really, it means like you listen carefully, right? I can't help but we have in where I live, there's a bunch of bunnies that have been out, and like it's like they're kind of cute, but they're also kind of destructive. But the thing I always think about when I think of bunnies, these giant ears were immediately ding, like when they're listening to something, they're attentive. So like, being quick to hear to me is almost like that. You listen carefully. Like nothing diffuses anger more effectively than listening.
Yes.
You're actually allowing the other person to share their perspective, even if it's covered with difficult feelings, and asking questions, right? Seek to understand the other person's perspective, the other person's feelings.
Can I just interrupt for a second? This is, and you have heard me say this, I just want to share this. It took me 30 years of marriage to finally actually hear what Mom was saying. And
mostly because she was speaking German. It's very strange. Those first years of
when Mom
That's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true. But it seemed like that because she would say something, she'd get upset, and then of course immediately I'd want to fix it. I'd want to give her the answers, right? And she finally, I don't know, 10, 11 years ago, it finally clicked. And she was saying this the whole time. She said, "Bob, I don't need you to fix everything. I just need you to listen. I need a friend." And that is such a powerful statement. And every young married person that I speak to. If you learn that lesson,
Oh man,
listening is such a powerful tool.
that's huge. I feel especially, whether you're married or engaged or even just dating, especially I think men with women, that's a really good lesson for us guys to know, to listen and give it time.
Yeah.
And Dave's like, I probably have 10 stories about that. I could too. But
I'm
thanks,
not-
Dad. Thank you for you being
That'll be on
vulnerable.
another podcast.
That's right. That's right.
55 minutes long.
What does it mean to be slow to speak?
Yeah. Well, let me maybe zoom out here because Dave, you and I have talked about this before. Like in this picture of being slow to speak, like there is a time for us to talk and for us to engage. We don't just need to listen or be passive. But I think if we zoom out, this slow to speak idea can be captured more in like four rules of communication. And this is all in Ephesians chapter 4. So I may give a couple, and then if you want to give a couple, that'd be cool. So kind of this first rule of communication is be honest. In Ephesians 4 verse 25, it says, therefore, having put away falsehood, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we're members of one another. So be kind, be gentle in spirit, acknowledge the person's emotions, but also speak the truth. Be honest, whether if it's with how you feel, but more importantly, like what God says about them or the situation. So we got to be honest. That's kind of the first rule. Second is stay current. So be honest, stay current. Ephesians 4, verse 26 and 27 says, be angry and do not sin, right? We quoted this earlier. It says, do not let the sun go down on your anger and give no opportunity for the devil. So don't hold on to your anger. Settle your disagreements quickly that day if possible, right? Like if you can resolve it that day, do your hardest to do it and only deal with the current problem. Don't be bringing up past issues.
Right.
That's not what the situation's about. So be honest, stay current. Dave,
Yep. I'd continue that with, especially recognizing that your goal here is to attack the problem, not the person.
Huge.
So don't make it personal. Again, don't dredge up things from the past for sure, but keep it constructive and make sure that they understand you're just responding to what they did, not fundamentally who they are characteristically. Because again, that very quickly muddles the waters. It no longer is constructive. That confrontation then becomes very personal. And I don't know about you, but I do not take a personal attack in the form of like feedback or confrontation almost ever. Not many people do. And if the goal is to shed more light than heat, it's going to be very difficult to make it constructive when you get real personal. That's number one. Or that's our number 3. The fourth I would say is make sure you're acting, not reacting. Ephesians 4 is so keen to remind us, let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. Be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. There again is the stark reminder that we were always given as children by pops and mom. There's only one thing you can control in a given scenario. It's not the other kid who bullied you, smacked you. It's not the pitch that hit you in the shoulder. You know what? The only thing you can control is your response.
Yeah.
And in that context, again, the reminder is so clear in Ephesians.
Because that's a list of a lot of stuff.
It's a list of a lot of stuff.
Wrath and
I would say
clamor.
the TLDR there is like, if you're coming into it with tenderness and kindness being kind of your core central motivator there, you're probably going to handle it right.
Yeah,
So
good
let me
ask.
just review from Ephesians 4. We learned 4 important communication lessons. First, be honest. Second, stay current. Third, and I love this one, attack the problem and not the person. And then fourth, act, don't react.
Yep.
Finally, what does it mean to be slow to anger?
Yeah, this is where the rubber meets the road, isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah.
It kind of just is like express your anger in a healthy way or allow, because the fruit of the Spirit is self-control, right?
Yes.
Allow the Spirit to work in you to subside some of that anger. So here's just a couple of ways maybe how that works to be slow to anger. Like respond to your anger quickly by taking some deep breaths, counting to 10, be able to assess yourself in the moment. That's a mark of maturity, right? Not that you never feel this energy, but in the moment you can collect yourself. Also using that anger then to do what you said a moment ago, Dave, and that is solve problems, right?
Yeah.
Attack the problem.
Yeah.
Don't create bigger ones.
Yeah.
And if you need to, maintain some distance. Go ahead and maintain healthy distance until you can speak constructively. So if you're still working on this and you feel like, man, I feel in the instant I want to blow up, you may need to just step away for a second or take 15 minutes and reemerge, still committed to solve the problem, but not going to blow up at someone in the moment.
Yeah.
That's kind of being slow to anger.
I feel like a part of that stepping away means that we all know this is going to happen. It is unavoidable that in life you will anger someone or someone will anger you, period. So I think as a part of that, maintaining a contingency plan that says there is some internal work I can be doing as I step away. So what does that look like? I would say reflecting on scripture that's going to motivate the proper response out of you, confessing those sinful thoughts immediately to the Lord and asking him and his spirit to take control and the reins to pull you back in emotionally or however you're feeling.
Yeah.
I would say reflecting on the good qualities of the person.
Yeah.
I know it can be a hard in the moment to be like, oh, my wife just really ticked me off somehow or whatever.
Or my boss.
Or my boss, or my friend, or my teammate, or my classmate, or whatever. And if you think to yourself, I know, again, this can be hard, but if you just take a beat and go, but what do I love about this person? Why am I thankful for this person? You know, trying to think 30 minutes forward, 30 days forward and going, when this argument's long gone and I'm no longer feeling the rage inside, I'm going to be friends with this person again, or I'm going to have to submit to this person again. I'm going to have to obey or work for this person again. So I think there's a lot of things you can kind of do to help set yourself as that contingency plan. Oh, the sinful anger is rising up inside of me. I'm taking a beat. I'm stepping away. I'm praying. I'm confessing these thoughts to the Lord. I'm meditating on scripture. I'm trying to practice thankfulness or awareness of that person.
Yeah. I almost can maybe one
Yeah,
example.
yeah, I think that's
internally for me, because I have work to do in this area. I feel like God in his grace sometimes in a moment gives me like this ability to just say like, I feel angry. Like if you can even say that to yourself in a moment, you're acknowledging like, okay, I have some control. It's like, I feel angry, but I don't have to do anything. And almost pretending like for me, like I'm not going to open my mouth until I can say something that has some control to it. And I fail at that, but I feel like that's for me. Like, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And then when it opens, I'm going to do my best to do it. So anyway.
Yeah. And that goes back to the old thought of there's only one thing you can control in a situation where you get angry.
Right.
And that is
your response.
And your response. We come to the end of this podcast and we want to deal with the so what questions. What are some of the practical takeaways that we want our listeners to have when it comes to anger?
Yeah, so here's some maybe practical takeaways that we can hit the ground with this week. The first one for me would be remove yourself. So remove yourself from situations and even people that you know are going to bring you the temptation to be angry. You know, for some people, like they're really just angry people and you choose to hang out with them and you don't have to, and they make you angry. I mean, I say make, but they put you in situations where you're going to want to be angry and you're like, maybe I shouldn't be hanging with that buddy or that friend a lot. Or like playing video games makes you angry. Stop playing video games.
Yeah. And this is something you guys knew. And this happened about 15, maybe even 20 years ago. Mom came downstairs one day where we had the big screen TV. And she said, I can hear you yelling all the way upstairs. Bob, are you aware that the coaches and the referees cannot hear you?
Yeah, right.
I tell this story to friends because he was watching the Bears play. It was like 2001 or 2. I distinctly remember that.
Yeah. So,
and it was like a revelation to you. Like,
it was. And so I don't watch football anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say, but tell them what happened, because I think that is a huge example to me, because you love football.
You love it.
Right? You grew up playing football.
Yeah.
And to be able to come to a point of saying, you know what, I realize that when I watch football, this is how I'm going to feel. And this is what's typically going to come out of me. And I don't feel like I can control that right now. So instead, like you have chosen and haven't for 15 years, 20, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Saying, I don't watch football anymore.
Yeah.
And that honors the Lord. Like that's an example that we're more submitted to Jesus than we are doing what we want.
Yeah, that's right.
So another one. So other than removing yourself, I might just say another one is ignore. So feel free to ignore petty disagreements, right? Most hills just are not worth dying on, whether that's in the workplace or in your classes, or whether that's with a significant other. Like even God tells us in Proverbs 19, it's to your glory to overlook an offense, right? And I'll say like, man, it's usually the people that we love the most and we're closest to that we want to be nitpicky with, isn't it?
Agreed.
But it's actually a good thing when we can ignore it and just say, hey, I'll let love cover it.
One is funny too, because the people you love are the closest to you. You probably installed a bunch of those triggers in them that make them angry and testy.
I'm sure I did.
/ I know I did that to you. So yeah. That. Yeah. I would say too, if like we're discussing, if you know what's best for you in your context, in your space right now in your life, whether you're a student, working full time, part time, living at home, living with friends, whatever, it is on you to take the responsibility to recognize that you, at some level, are the sort of aggregation, the sum total of your environment and the friends that you choose to bring around you. So if you recognize after maybe listening to this that those who are close to you, your friends, partner, whomever, are angry people, like you are in the driver's seat to make some changes to your own personal culture. Because I can speak from personal experience that, typically your closest 3 to 5 friends kind of added up together to make a mosaic of probably most of your quirks and personality traits. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah. And we probably should mention some really serious issues. And that is if you live or are around a violent, angry. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I was just gonna say exactly that. If you are or if you're in a situation where you are around a destructive anger, get help.
Yes.
And that can look like a lot of things depending on your age and depending on your lot in life. So at a certain level, that might look like some level of intervention or some authority figure. It may look like some level of counseling or confidant. But we don't want to pretend that if you are in a violent or dangerous context, for you to just hole up and then I mean, yes, pray through it, but seek help. Get out, be safe.
That's right. And don't go back until the person that's being violent has understood the importance of that, has sought treatment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because that's the difference. We're not saying that violence is okay when we're saying to be patient or ignore somebody who's
angry.
If that anger bubbles out explosively like a flare from the sun and is now involving some level of violence or physical harm to you or a loved one, get out. Get help, get safe, and try and bring resolution to that through whatever channels.
Good. Good.
Well,
what should we do, Bob? Give us a call to action.
What's our next step?
Yeah, what do we do?
Right, so what's our next step for this week? I'd say you could pick 2, right? 1, the next step when you have a conflict, try attacking the problem, not the person. So do that by focusing on the solution to the issue at hand. So step 1, this week, when you have an issue, a conflict with a person, say, I'm going to attack this problem and find a solution. I'm not going to attack the person. Second option would be, or if you've gotten angry with someone, whether by blowing up at them or whether by clamming up, right, and giving them the cold shoulder, seek them out and ask forgiveness. Because we are not about some moralism that says you just need to get better and that's the only thing that makes God happy. We are gospel people who know the only thing that we have between us and a God who deserves to punish us is Jesus and his blood. We've been forgiven by him, and so now we can forgive other people when they get angry with us, and they can forgive us. We can be humble enough to come before them. So this week, attack the problem, not the person, or seek someone out and ask their forgiveness for when you messed up in anger. Let us know on our socials or in the comments below which step you're going to take and how it's going, because we love hearing from you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. And thank you for joining us for this episode of the Binmin podcast. We know that the Christian life can be hard to figure out, but we believe that everyone should know their next step for making their spiritual life more important to them. Binmin exists to help you discover that next step.
Yeah, so check out our other episodes and even get the show notes for this episode on binmin.org. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, engage with us, jump on our social media, and we'll look forward to seeing you on there.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll look forward to next time. God bless.